All right, so we have 34 people in here right now. It's 3 o'clock, so I think we could start. So first off, I would like to extend my appreciation for all you guys that are attending and being interested in what we're doing. Your time is valuable, and I can promise you that it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to start this off with a quick bio about myself. My name is Sandeep Patel, and I'm the founder. I started off my career as an e-learning developer in Big Pharma. And what that process meant was that I have to sit with the subject matter expert, the person who knew the application, and learn the process myself. And then I'd have to basically put together the course by copy pasting thousands of screenshots. And this process was terribly inefficient, but most of all, it was painful. And I dreamt of a tool that I could just hand to the expert, and it would just create the instructions for them and in real time. So that's what led me to iorad. So iorad today is a team of 46 people. We are a hosted cloud platform that's used by companies of all sizes, from billion-dollar company like WeWork to a tiny auto body shop in Illinois. So the problem is the same across all these companies: is how do you transfer application knowledge to your employees or customers? So with that being said, nothing has changed in 11 years from the original mission, which was to let you create beautiful step-by-step instructions in minutes. So with that being said, we're going to get right into the agenda. So the agenda is going to be in 4 parts. So we're going to cover how to capture, how to edit the tutorial, and then how to publish it to different platforms. And then finally, we'll end with iorad Live. So we will be taking question and answers. So the process will be, as we're going through the topics, you can send over your questions just by clicking the question button, the Q&A button in the Zoom toolbar. And then at the end of each section, Lauren, who's in charge of our customer education, she's going to read them off, and then we'll cover them all one by one. So with that being said, I'm going to open up my Salesforce instance. So the first thing is capturing. So to capture a tutorial, we do have 2 different ways. So you can use our desktop capture. So that's usually used for anything that's that you want to capture that's running on the desktop. So that could be, PowerPoint or anything installed on your computer. The most common way now is for anything browser-based is to use our extension. So we do have a Chrome extension, we have a Firefox add-on, and also an Edge add-on. So the benefit of using the extension is you'll get a better result if you're recording something on the web, but more importantly is it will be iorad Live compatible. So the example I'm going to use today is how to create a new contact in Salesforce. So you just open up the page that you want to create the tutorial on. You're going to click the Chrome extension and then hit capture your tutorial. When you're ready, the idea is basically to close anything that you're not going to be using because this capture process is pretty intensive. So as long as there's a memory available, it'll process everything perfectly. So once you're ready, you click start capturing. So you're going to see a countdown timer go. Once the mask is removed, it's actually recording. So you just go through the transaction if somebody was sitting next to you and you were showing them. So while you're going through the actions, you should allow about a second in between actions just to give the system enough time to kind of process what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the transaction. So I'm going to click contacts. Then I'm going to click new contact. And then we're going to be faced with this form. So I'll fill in a couple of these mandatory ones. So I'll click Mr. I'll click in the last name, and then I'll type my last name. And let's just say that's what I wanted to show. So now I'm going to hit start. And you can see the contact was created. So I'm going to close this. And then I'm going to stop capture by clicking the Chrome extension again and then hitting the check mark. At this point, it's going to process all that information and then bring us inside of the iorad editor. So we are inside of the iorad editor. You can see it automatically captured 9 steps. It highlighted what I clicked on, and it provided a basic description of what I did. So now this is all totally editable. We do allow a maximum of 250 characters per step. If you did need to talk more about a particular step, let's say you wanted to add some process information, the idea would be to basically copy it. And then in this action dropdown, we do have a read tool. So that just tells your user that, hey, you're not doing anything here. You're just reading the information we're giving you. In terms of what you can do with a tutorial, it's very, very simple. So in the 9 steps, if you capture something incorrectly, you can delete the step, copy the step, duplicates it. Add step is if you missed something and you needed to relaunch the recorder. So if you relaunch the recorder and you captured some new steps, it'll actually place it after the one that's currently on stage. So in this case, if I hit add, it will actually place the new captures at position 2. Mask is pretty handy. So if you had a customer's name or an account number on the screenshot itself, you can click mask. And let's say we wanted to hide this data right here. So I can let go of the mouse and then hit yes, I'm sure. And you'll see it automatically blurs it. We also do detect if that data is present on other steps. So you can see here, this data is also present. Mask all. So I'm going to hit mask all, and then it'll apply that blur to all the steps going forward. The last thing to do is add audio. So there's 2 different ways to add audio. You can hit customize audio to record your own. So to record audio, we were always totally against audio because it's hard to maintain. So every time something changed, then you'd have to go in and re-record the audio, and everybody hates the sound of their own voice. So when Amazon, I think early this year, Amazon provided their service, Amazon Polly, which is the same technology that powers their Alexa device. So they do give you the ability to add voice via API. So you can pick a voice that you like, and then with a click of a button, it'll actually generate audio for your entire tutorial. So basically, we send the text from your step text to Amazon, and then they send back an audio file. So it's a real quick, easy way to add audio to your tutorials. Once you're done, you hit close, and this is going to attach the audio to your tutorial. In terms of reshuffling slides, what you can do is right-click on a screenshot, and you'll see there's 2 options, to move step ahead and move step back. It's kind of hidden, and this is probably one of our most common questions of how to actually reorder slides. So if you right-click on the screenshot, you'll see these 2 options. So you can actually move them linearly in the timeline. In terms of how long a tutorial should be, we do recommend it stay under 25 steps. So the reason why we do say that is because, one, it helps you makes maintaining the tutorial easier. But more importantly, it gives something digestible to your learners. So if you did have a longer process, let's say it's 50 steps or 100 steps, the idea is if you can find the logical break in the process, you can actually connect tutorials together. So in this case, what you could do is go to the end of this tutorial, just making sure that it captured everything correctly. And we'll go to the last slide here, and you can say, that's it, you're done. Thanks for completing part 1. Click here for part 2. And then you can hyperlink, click here for part 2 with this, and then just link it to the next tutorial. Now that hyperlink, you can kind of use it for anything. So if you wanted to attach a PDF or a video, you can use that hyperlink for the learner to actually go out and get extra information, maybe some kind of background information that they needed. With that being said, I think we've covered everything in editing a tutorial and capturing a tutorial. Lauren, are there any questions on those 2 parts of the process?
No questions so far.
Okay, perfect. Basically that entire thing, you could see I didn't edit anything, and the steps were all captured correctly. So we're going to go straight into publishing a tutorial. So now if I hit preview and finish, you'll see this is what the tutorial player looks like on the right-hand side, and this is what your end user sees. So I'll go through a couple of different things first before we get into the player. The first is theming. So when you theme a player, you can actually upload your logo here. You can add a background image, and then also adjust the marker color here. So depending on how your system looks, you might want to pick a color that's high contrast, so it actually stands out to your user. So that's the theming of the player. You can actually link the logo to a specific site. So if you wanted to send the user to a specific help site, you can specify that link here so that anytime the user clicks your logo, it'll send them to that particular web address. In terms of what you can hide and different modes, you'll see there's this visibility dropdown. So if you didn't want your users to be able to share it or print it, you can actually deselect those options here. That'll actually hide it from the interface. You can also default to a particular mode, try it or view it. So if you wanted your users to go straight to view, you can select that here in this dropdown. I'll go through the player here. So when you start a tutorial, you see it says 9 steps, 2 minutes. So when you start the tutorial,
the first step is to open Home, Salesforce, and click Highlight.
So that's what the audio sounds like, the generated audio. It is pretty natural sounding, but you'll see I'm going to mute the audio, but you'll see it automatically defaults to try it mode, which means it's interactive. So if I click outside the box, you'll see it blinks red. And then when I click inside, it'll advance me to the next step. So it's interactive. It's a nice way for your users to kind of practice what they need to do. So we can actually go through each step one by one, and you'll get familiar with how the transaction, the steps involved in the transaction. The other way is view steps mode. So if I click view here, you'll see it puts everything into a nice table where you can see the step text is here on the right-hand side, and then the cropped image is on the left. So the beauty of the iorad player is you do not need to adjust anything in terms of the screenshot itself. We do not scale the image, so the screenshot is always readable. What we do is we use this marker as the guiding principle. So based on what the resolution is of the user's computer, you'll see if I click this full screen text, you can see more of the screenshot. So the idea is basically this is where the focus is on that the player goes into on the screenshot. So if you're on a smaller laptop, it'll show as much of the screenshot as it can. So that's all based inside of the player, and you don't need to do anything manually. We do also allow you to generate a PDF. So there's 2 types of PDFs. Get this out of full screen mode. There's 2 types of PDFs. One is portrait, which is the cropped image, and then landscape, which is the full screenshot. So I'll show you what each looks like. So if I generate the portrait PDF, you'll see it puts everything into a nice table. So it'll automatically take your logo, and then you'll see the screenshots on the right and the steps on the left. So if you're making this in Microsoft Word, it would probably take you an hour, hour and a half, and we did it in literally 30 seconds.
Sunday,
Yes.
can you speak to the color or the position of the steps area being changed for output and how that kind of is focused in on it?
So yeah, basically, are you talking about like resizing it?
The position of the steps. So I'm guessing the area, changing the area for the output of what's showing.
I don't quite get the question. So
the question is, can the color or position of the steps area be changed for the output?
No. Well, so yeah, you can use this. You can resize these markers. So the width is not as adjustable, but the height is. So if you make this marker bigger, like if you resize it, it'll show more of the area. So the height is definitely, as long as you have to basically change the size of the marker. That's what actually tells our player how much of the screenshot to show. Is that clear?
I think so.
Okay. So now that's what the portrait PDF looks like. The landscape PDF is the full screenshot. So when you generate that, you'll see what that looks like in a second. So this is what the landscape PDF is. You can see it's a full screenshot and the step description. So it really depends on the user. We allow the user to do both depending on what their learning preference is. Obviously, you see the tutorial player is really optimized for the learner to kind of pick which way they like to take the tutorials. You'll see we also are mobile friendly. So if they're coming in from their phones, you'll see it'll automatically reformat the content. So when they actually start the tutorial, you'll see they actually have to swipe through the steps. So it's a little bit of a cleaner experience on mobile so that you know what the steps are that you need to do. It's also landscape. So if you switch the orientation of your phone, you could do the same thing. So it'll automatically reformat the content. So the idea behind the iorad player is it'll basically detect the type of device the learner is coming in from and then automatically reformat the content in that manner. So I'm going to go back to our player. So in terms of privacy, so there's 4 different types of privacy options. There's public, which means it's viewable to everybody, and it's also indexable by the search engines. Unlisted means you need the exact URL to get to it. And embed only is our most popular option in that you can embed it inside of your own site or help center. And then the last one does require an iorad, an account. So you'll see it says invite only. So this means that when I select invite only and I click share, I'll enter in their email address. They'll get a link saying that you've invited them to view this tutorial. When they click on it, they'll have to sign up for a new iorad account or log in with their existing one. So they only have to do it once, but those are the 4 different types of privacy options. So when you click share, there is a cool little feature. So if you're sharing companies with your employees, you'll see there's this view access for any user with email. In the case of your account, it would have your company domain here. So if you check this box, it'll basically share that tutorial with anybody in your company. So the minute somebody from a coworker signs up for an iorad account and they have the same email domain as you, a verified email domain, it'll automatically share that tutorial with them. So you don't need to manually share it with them. You could just click that box, and then anybody from the company that comes in will automatically be shared that tutorial. Any questions, Lauren, on sharing?
They want to know what is the default format of the tutorials. I'm guessing maybe default for privacy.
The defaults for privacy is if you're on a premium account, it will be private. And then if you're on a regular free account, it would be default to public after the first couple that you've made.
Are there any other plans for output forms outside of PDF, like Microsoft Word or other editable types?
We do have outputs as video and also as Word doc. So we do have an integration with Google Drive that will automatically create a Word version, an editable version of your tutorial. So that brings us to a good thing is I'll show you the kind of outputs there are. So these are 3 different links. The first one is the direct URL. So when you click it, you'll see it automatically opens up in this right in full screen to your tutorial. It is OEmbed compliant. So if you're using any kind of third-party service that's Embedly compliant, you can actually just grab this link and then paste it into that thing, and then it'll automatically embed inside of the page. The other one is our short URL. There's no difference between the two. The third one, the output is pretty cool. You'll see it automatically will create a full screen kind of help page that you can send to your users. You'll see it says 2 minutes, nine steps. So as you scroll through this, you can see the screenshot, and then there's step text, whatever you put at the top. And then at the bottom, you'll see our tutorial player. So you'll see it says interactive guide for visual learners, people who like to learn visually, and that's our tutorial player. So that is the third URL that you can kind of share, and they can kind of go through it in a step-by-step way and then actually try it in the player. And in terms of output, if there's no other questions, I guess we can kind of go into integrations.
I do have one, actually 2 questions. One is there a way to validate the text box entries, meaning they can't go forward without typing something specific?
Yeah, so if we go back and we go to the type tool, so you'll see it says leave blank or enter answer here. So you can see here, this says type, and then you can actually put in an answer in this type tool. So if I wanted them to type in my first name, my last name, you can actually type in the answer. And this basically will say, hey, you have to type this, and then it'll advance them to the next step.
Okay, and then the other question is around the dashboard. I don't know if you want to show that or not, but it's around the categorizing and tagging.
Yeah, so we could go that now. So if I go back to the finish screen, so there is this tags hyperlink. So when you click that, you can actually add a category. So let's say I want to place this as new user Salesforce training. And then you can add a description. This tutorial will cover the basics of how to contact Salesforce. And then you can actually add tags. So we can say, let's say we want to do contacts, Salesforce. So these are the different ways that you can actually, so if I apply it, so that tag and that description are automatically entered in this tags pop-up. So you can add the description. The description and adding tags basically helps it being searched, especially when you're publishing it to a third-party integration. So that actually brings a good segue here to kind of show you what kind of integrations that we do have. So you'll see here there's the Zendesk and Freshdesk tab. We do integrate with a lot of different third-party tools. So I'll kind of list them out. Zendesk, Freshdesk, Freshservice, Confluence, Help Scout, Help Docs, Salesforce Knowledge. So depending on what you use, the process is going to be exactly the same as you're going to see in this example. So let's say I want to publish this to my Zendesk guide. I'm going to click Zendesk, and you'll see it actually will pull in all the different categories. And then you pick what section you want to post it to. So let's say I want to post this to my FAQ. I'm going to click FAQ here, and you'll see there's two options here. So if you want to keep it as draft, you can keep this checked on. But let's say we want to just publish it straight. So I'm going to uncheck draft. And this is the option to show the static step list as well. So I'm going to click publish here, and you're going to see publishing. And then once it's published, you're going to see articles published to the FAQ section. So now if I hit view, you'll see it automatically created a page, a new article page. It added our description, and it also added the tags that we did from that side. So you'll see here, this tutorial will cover the basics of how to create a new contact in Salesforce, 9 steps. And it's the same kind of view as the other one that you saw, where each step has its own static screenshot. And then at the bottom of the step list you'll see our interactive tutorial player. So they can actually go through it here. They can click full screen and then take the tutorial in full screen mode. And then so it's embedded right inside of the page. And it's pretty seamless where it looks like it's a part of the page, and your learner will never know it's like an iorad tutorial. Everything sits inside here. And this is probably our most common use case, is that usually whether it's Canvas or Freshdesk, some third-party tool, and what they'll do is if they only want it viewable from that third-party tool, is you'll remember there was this option called embed only. So here is where you can select embed only. And then you'll see here, it says viewable only from domain, and then it'll automatically put in the place that you've embedded it. So you'll see it says zenrad41.zendesk.com. So this basically tells us that, hey, this tutorial is only viewable from inside of Zendesk or Freshdesk. So that's what this embed only option does.
I have a few questions if this is a break. Yes?
Yeah, shoot.
Okay. Can this be published in SharePoint?
So yes, we don't have a direct integration, but it works exactly the same. You just have to go to this embed tab, hit copy here, and then just grab that embed code and then paste it into any rich text editor. So generally speaking, most rich text editors nowadays have this source button that looks like, I don't even know what those symbols are called, but it's those sideways V's. That just says basically that you can embed source, and then what you can do is just paste this code in there, and then it'll automatically embed the tutorial inside of SharePoint.
The other question is, if the user has to enter text into a field, can you enter multiple options to allow for things that like the capital or no capital or numbers versus words, etc.? Or is it just specific?
Is that the same question as the text entry?
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of that, no, we don't allow, that's why we kind of keep it freeform. Generally speaking, we're not kind of testing them on their typing skills. You're just kind of giving them information on what belongs in that field. So yeah, you can basically put in one answer, and then it basically gives them the direction to enter that specific answer versus just keeping it general. So generally speaking, it just, you can allow one answer, not multiple answers.
And the last one I have right now is if the walkthrough requires the viewer to open a new tab, does the tool visualize swapping tabs, or does it just show the page contents without showing the tab?
So if you wanted to show the tabs, you'd have to use our desktop capture. So the desktop capture allows you to capture the whole toolbar. But if you're going to use desktop capture with a browser, you should generally use either Firefox or Edge. It does record better if you're using desktop capture. But if you're using one of the extension add-ons, it will not include the tabs. So you just have to put that in the step description that you're switching tabs. So it just depends on what you're trying to show. But I think if you just mention it in the step text that you're switching tabs, it should do the job. But if you had to, then you can use desktop capture to do that. And desktop capture is right here. You'll see once you have it installed, you'll see a create new. And then when you launch that, it'll actually launch the recorder. So anything behind this frame will actually be captured. So you just hit capture and then go through whatever you wanted to show and then hit done. So it's the same kind of process.
We have a few more here.
Yep.
As far as integrations, are there WordPress, Microsoft Dynamic integrations, or Salesforce or Intercom?
Basically, any Microsoft product or you can basically grab this embed code. So the beautiful part about embedding it, so generally speaking, if you can embed a YouTube video inside of a platform, you can embed an iorad tutorial. So all you would need to do is really just grab this embed code. And if the third-party tool is Embedly compliant, you can just grab the direct link and it'll automatically embed it. So with those tools any Microsoft tool you can use this embed code. With the other ones, Salesforce Knowledge, we have a direct link. So just like you see here, Zendesk and Freshdesk, once you connect your site, which is from the connect page, you can actually, I guess I could show you how to connect to one. So if I hit connect and I typed in Salesforce, you'll see connect. And then you just enter in your, I'm already logged into Salesforce, but you can see here it automatically added a Salesforce to my finish screen. So now if I go back to this tutorial page, and I go back to my tutorial, you'll see the Salesforce tab is there now. So if I hit Salesforce, you'll see same concept. It's I'm going to uncheck draft. I'm going to say I want to post it to my knowledge section, and then I'm going to select tips as the category, and then hit publish. And then once it's publishing, it will automatically say, okay, the article is now published, and then you can view it. It's going to open up Salesforce. And you'll see it will open up the knowledge, and then you'll see the article right here. So you see the description and then the step text here. With Intercom, we actually have an app in the Intercom store. So if I was to show you what that looks like, actually I could show it to you right here. So if I open up my Intercom, you'll see at the bottom is their search tutorials. So this article that we just made, if I search for contact, so, one of these, but anyway, so this is it'll search your Intercom tutorials, and then you could click on one of them, and then it'll actually open up the player right here inside of Intercom. So you can start it, and then go through the tutorial right here in this panel. So that's our Intercom app. So yeah, all you would need to do is just go to the Intercom app store, and then search iorad, and then just add it to your messenger. And did I miss any of those that they talked about?
I think you got Salesforce, Intercom, WordPress, Microsoft Dynamics, and then someone was asking about Slack as well.
Okay, so Slack is pretty cool. So we do have a Slack app as well. So if you go into the Slack app store, you can search for iorad and then install it. So if I was to show you how that worked. So you see here, basically it's an iorad bot. So once you add it, you'll see it's under apps, and then you can ask the bot anything. So if I said contacts, if I typed in contacts, it'll actually search all your tutorials, and then you'll see it actually pulled up the tutorial that we just made, right? So this tutorial will cover the basics on how to create, and then when you expand it, it'll actually pull in all the steps that you need to do for adding a contact. And then they can go through it right here inside of Slack, where they can figure out how to add a contact. And then you'll see at the bottom, there's two links, play tutorial, and then if they hit play, it'll actually open up the tutorial player. So it's a good, fast way of sharing application knowledge within the team, so that all the tutorials that you've made basically becomes like an instant repository for your team, where once you have the iorad bot installed, you can ask the bot questions, and then it'll send you relevant tutorials, so you know how to do different things.
I have two questions not related to integrations.
Okay.
All right. The one is, if you want a tutorial to be repurposed for different audiences and channels, is it best practice to copy the tutorial and change the output settings?
Correct. Yeah. So the best is to duplicate it, and then you could do that from the tutorial dashboard. So I could probably go through that now. So you'll have a tutorial dashboard here. This is where all your tutorials are. You can add tags and categories, and then they'll populate here. So it's a good, quick, fast way to kind of sort through them. So if you just wanted to see something with just contacts, you could click contacts here and it'll automatically sort it. In terms of all the different things that you can do with a tutorial, you'll see this three dot icon, sorry. And then under it, you'll see duplicate. And when you duplicate a tutorial, it'll actually make a copy of it, and then you could kind of repurpose it. So if you needed different text for a specific audience, yeah, that's probably the best way to do it, is just copy it and then just make your adjustments. And then you'll have two separate links. So you can send one link to one group and then another link to another group.
Can you show exporting options as well for like creating a video version?
Yep. So, so if I click export, you'll see there's these different types of export. Depending on your package, these are mostly in our enterprise plan, the HTML and SCORM. So if you want to actually self-host these tutorials, you can actually download these packages and then deploy them on your own server. And then for the other two are video and Word. So if I wanted to upload this to YouTube automatically, I can click this. You can put in your title and your description, and then the privacy of the video. And then once you click video, it'll automatically export it, and then you'll receive an email once it's done. And then for Word, so this is the Word output. So if I click Word, you'll see it automatically downloads a doc version. So when I open that up, this is what the Word output looks like. It's very similar to the PDF, but it's all editable. So you'll see it takes your logo, puts a title, and then it crops the images and puts it into a nice table. So this is like the Word output where you can edit the text and the images.
Another couple of questions. Is there an iorad bot for Workplace by Facebook?
No, so we basically have built out all these integrations in, I think, under a year. So we're adding new ones every quarter. So yeah, we can add Workplace to our queue. So you just got to send an email to integrations@iorad.com, and then that will automatically add it to our queue of tools that we're going to be integrating with.
And then someone is asking, do you have ways to make mobile tutorials for applications, or would it have to be a mobile web page?
Correct. So obviously you can capture a mobile web page by just resizing your browser and forcing it into mobile mode and then capturing it that way. But for actually iOS or Android apps, most of our users, it does require a little bit of work. So if you can if you can use one of these mirroring applications, either AirPlay or there's an app called Reflector, you can actually mirror the application onto your desktop and then use desktop capture to kind of go through the steps. So obviously it does require a little bit of manually editing things because it can't detect any of the components. So you'll just manually need to resize the box and add in the step descriptions. But that's how people do use mobile, use iorad on mobile applications, mobile apps, sorry.
And then if by accident we would delete a tutorial, is it gone or is there a recycle or do you have a certain amount of days to bring it back?
That is in the queue currently. If you do delete a tutorial, it's gone for good, but there is a confirmation message. So once you hit delete, you'll see keep and delete, obviously, so that there is that confirmation. We are looking into adding that recycle bin so that it'll get placed in there and then every week it'll empty out. So, but for right now, yeah, if you hit delete here, it's gone.
All right. And then for security reasons, can you go into the differences on the privacy, the public, unlisted, et cetera?
You
like
mean
more detail, I guess.
Attention, please. The signal tone you have just heard indicates a report of an emergency in this building. If your floor evacuation signal
sorry about that.
Walk to the nearest stairway and leave the floor.
We have an emergency in the building.
While the report is being verified, occupants on other floors should await further instructions.
Okay.
Attention, please.
Oh my God, it's going to keep going. Lauren, if I mute, can you go over those privacy options?
Sure. Are you going to bring it up? So public means that if you search on Google or any other type of search engine, you'll be able to search it. So that's the most open option. Unlisted means it's kind of like a Google Doc in the sense that if you send that link to someone, that is the only way that they would be able to see that information. And then embed only, that is actually limiting it to the people that have access to the domains that you specify. And invite only limits it to the specific group of people. So if you only want to send it to a handful of people, then you can specify, the people that you want to send it to by putting in their email and sending them a specific invite, or by using the one check domain option, and that would share it with everyone in that domain email as they sign up.
Cool. I think and Lauren, I think it stopped. So
Perfect.
I think we're okay now. Any other questions?
Can they forward the invite only email?
Yeah, you can forward it, but that other person still needs an iorad account. So it has to be basically when you select invite only, it has to be explicitly shared with either a specific email or a specific email domain. So if you remember that checkbox, if you say share with anybody with an iorad.com email, it'll automatically be shared with them. So, but if you actually are putting in specific email addresses, they can forward it, but that other person won't be able to get into it. So it has to be explicitly shared with that email address.
Can you show the dashboard again with the categories and tags, how that can kind of be sortable like folders?
Yeah, so we use the concept, it's very similar to Gmail with the concept of labels. So if you wanted to add a label, let's say here, I can just type one in, and then it'll automatically add that tag there. And then once you create that new tag, you'll see it automatically puts it into your tag list. So when you click it, it'll automatically sort by the tutorials that match that tag. So it's very similar to the Gmail concept, and what modern applications are doing is allowing you to kind of add multiple tags to keep everything sortable. So you can add multiple ones. So if you had a new user training and it was on a specific application, you can put the application name and then the role, and that way you can create all different versions of the same tutorial for different audiences, like we talked about before.
Perfect.
Anything else?
Not yet.
Okay. So I think that brings us to, we got about 20 minutes left. So I did want to take some time and show iorad live. So if I go back to my, my tutorial, and, oh, I didn't even rename this, but you can rename the tutorial to whatever, like, so how to create a new contact in Salesforce. And what's good about the integrations is you only actually need to make the change in iorad, and then it'll update in all the places. So you see here, I changed this title to how to create a new contact in Salesforce. And if I view this Zendesk article again, you'll see it automatically changed here. So you don't need to republish anywhere. Everything is done automatically by iorad. So even though you've published it to, let's say, Canvas or Zendesk or Freshdesk, once you make the change, you don't need to upload it or republish it anywhere. The change is automatically sent there and synced with iorad. So that's one of the real benefits is you only need to make the change once, and you don't need to do anything manual. You don't even need to click anything. So you just make the change, and then it's automatically updated in wherever you've published it. So going back to live. So what live is you'll see this live tab next to the embed one. And when you click live, you'll see there's this checkbox, live mode. So what that does is you'll see it adds this little go live button to your player. So based on wherever you've captured the tutorial, you'll see I've captured this obviously on my Salesforce instance. So it makes this live tutorial available on Salesforce. So the way that works is if I was to click go live here, so you'll see this is my tutorial player, and then you'll see, are you ready to try this for real on the live application? So when I click go live, no, I actually have to do it here. Let me do it here. So if I'm going in from Zendesk and I see go live, and then you'll see, are you ready to try this for real? And then when I hit go live, it'll actually open up my Salesforce. So you'll see here, it's opening up my Salesforce, and it added this little.
The first step is to open home.
I want to mute this. So you'll see it adds this little helper dialog on the right. So this is my exact tutorial. So it's going to say, the first step is to open Salesforce and click. So you'll see here, contacts is actually highlighted. So in this case, it's putting an overlay over the actual application. So when I'm performing these actions, I'm really going to be creating a new contact. So you'll see here, if I click contacts, it's going to advance me to the next step, and it's going to tell me to click new contact. So basically, it's going to walk me through the exact steps of creating a contact. So the idea behind iorad Live is you do need either the iorad Chrome extension installed, or you can have the widget installed on our application. So the beautiful part of having the Chrome extension, especially if you're making tutorials for your employees, is what iorad Live does is when you have the Chrome extension installed, and no matter what application you've gone through, so let's say if I open up my Salesforce again, and I open up the Chrome extension, you'll see there's 2 tutorials in one category. So if you made 100 tutorials on Salesforce and you've shared them with your team, when they click this, you'll see it basically will show, so it automatically created the category, and it makes them all searchable right from Salesforce itself. So actually I can search here if I needed help on how to create a new contact, and you'll see it actually searches all the tutorials that you've made, and then you can click on a tutorial, and you can actually go through the tutorial right here in this panel, and then at the bottom you're going to see 2 buttons. So if your users wanted to practice on how to create a new contact, they can click practice. It'll actually open up the practice player where you can go through the steps just like we showed you before, but you'll also see this live button. So this is what will initiate the live mode. So when I click live, it'll automatically start the tutorial.
Salesforce.
So the real benefit of using the Chrome extension is, especially inside of an organization, is if you had 1,000 employees and 50 different applications that you use to run your business, no matter if there are tutorials available for a specific application, your employee can click the Chrome extension and then search all the tutorials that you've made for that particular one, because everything is kind of driven by the URL. So if you're on Salesforce, it'll know you're on Salesforce and send you the tutorials that have been shared with you. If you're in Gmail or Google Apps, it'll send you the tutorials that you've made for Google Apps. So it's kind of a really quick and fast way of, so your users don't actually have to dig around in an FAQ site or anything. It makes everything accessible when they're in the application. So it's right at their fingertips. All those tutorials and all that information that you've basically made is available to that employee right inside of the application. So that's iorad Live. Are there any other questions?
We have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
One is for our online applications, such as an ERP, we do our tutorials in our test environment and then update the URL to our production. Can you go over the process for that?
Are we referring to iorad Live?
I'm guessing.
Okay, so yeah, so for the test ones, so we do have the ability in our enterprise plan to allow multiple domains. It does get kind of tricky, but it is on a case-by-case basis. So we can add multiple domains. So basically, if your test environment is test.force.com, we can give you the ability to allow basically to replace. So you would add an alias to this as test.force.com. So that way you can capture it in the test environment, but you can play them in the production environment.
Okay. The user, if they're using the live option, do they have to have the iorad extension installed on their workstation?
So there's two ways to deploy an iorad Live tutorial. One is through the extension, which they would need to run it. The second way is if you install our widget. So if you go back to our page and you go to connect, you'll see the option to connect your website right here. So if you hit connect, you can actually configure how you want the widget to look. And then what you would do is you can copy this one line of code. If you have access to the page, you can paste that code, but generally speaking, you probably have a development team. So you can give them this code and then they can basically paste it right before the body tag. So you do need this code or you need the Chrome extension installed. Generally speaking, if it is for employee training, the Chrome extension is the best way because then you don't need to embed this code. But if it is customer facing where you can't ask your customer to kind of download a Chrome extension, you can basically deploy the widget. So that means the end user doesn't need the Chrome extension. It'll actually just run. So if you want to see an example of that, so if you see this is like, or let's say this is your application. Once you do copy that one line of JavaScript code, you'll see this little question mark icon. And then when you open that, you'll see you can search all the categories, you can search the help, and then you can click on a tutorial, and then you can run it in practice or live mode. So that's how our widget looks. It is, once you copy that one line of code, you'll see this question mark icon on the bottom right. So this can all be themed based on what the color of the interface is. You can adjust all that in the settings panel.
All right. More questions around the extension. Does the end user need to sign into the Chrome extension, or can a public user go through that process without having an iorad account?
So generally speaking, everything is designed around companies, so they would need an iorad account. The advantage of that is if you use Microsoft Azure or Google sign in, with one click, they don't need to create an iorad account. They can just log in with Google and it'll automatically create their account for them. But generally speaking, we don't, public tutorials are not meant through the extension. It's generally companies are kind of sharing information with their employees, creating tutorials for their employees. If you don't want sign in, obviously then you need to deploy the widget. So if you deploy the widget by copying that one line of code, they can actually take the tutorials without signing in because you basically, you have the widget installed, which means they don't need to do anything else. The end user can just take the tutorials without signing in or installing the Chrome extension.
Okay, and then as far as the extension or the widget, like, is it, as far as like data, it's logging and I'm not really fully sure on this question, but how does that, is it safe to use?
So is it logging the data?
Yeah.
So during your capturing, when you're typing stuff, nothing is recorded. Everything is encrypted with Asher key. So we don't even see what you're typing. You'll see that when you type, we actually replace it with the asterisk. So in terms of all we're capturing is really where you're clicking and the coordinates, so that we can actually recreate it on the capture side. And then if you see that for iorad Live, that's exactly why we do require signing in, because if you've been shared a tutorial and you have access to the application, you can actually run it without, because it is running on top of your browser.
And then where can they get the widget code for intercom?
You can just go to intercom. I do have it open here. So if you use intercom, you can just when you're configuring your messenger, you'll see add apps. So if you click add apps and then you search for iorad, you'll see it right there. We are coming out with a blog post that actually is done. We just need to publish it. So we'll have detailed instructions probably end of this week on how to add intercom. So basically what that'll do is it'll add the iorad app inside of your messenger. And then you'll see what I showed you previously is it'll add that app at the bottom. So you can basically add this. So it'll say search tutorials, and then it'll make all your tutorials searchable. If you are going to be installing the intercom app, we'd love for you to kind of email us. You can email me. My email is spatel@iorad.com, and then we can kind of walk you through it, because we're trying to actually come up with some. This is a fairly new app. I think it was 2 weeks ago that we launched it. So we'd like to come up with some case studies. So if you can email us, and then we can kind of walk you through the whole thing.
There may even be a tutorial already in there in the search.
Oh, okay.
So possibly. Where is there a widget available for Zendesk?
Yes, we have a Zendesk app. So it adds the thing. So if you go in the App Store, we are featured, not to brag, but we are featured in the Zendesk marketplace. So once you click the search iorad, and then you install it into your Zendesk site, you'll see an iorad icon. I can show you what that looks like. I might have it installed. I might not. I'm not sure.
Colleen says they love the intercom integration.
Oh, fantastic. So I have to go here. So yeah, I have to install it, but generally it'll put the iorad icon right here, and then you can actually, so your agents can do it in real time. It's actually pretty cool. So if your agent is answering a ticket to somebody and then you don't have anything in your knowledge base, you can actually just launch it right from here, and then say where you want to post it, and then it'll automatically insert a link to the article in your ticket. So it's a good thing to have, and it's fairly intuitive, just like the app. So yeah, just search for it on the marketplace and then install it. Anything else?
Let's see. I don't believe so. Not yet.
Okay, awesome. So we do have 6 minutes left. If anybody has anything, feel free to shoot that over. I could probably show creators in that 6 minutes. So with our premium and live plans, we do have the idea of teams. So the idea is basically you can give an iorad creator license to anybody. And you can manage them really from here in the Creators tab. The good thing about iorad licenses is they're transferable. So if there's one person on your team that has access to one particular area or knows one particular area, and then they've created all their tutorials, you can actually just remove them. And then all the tutorials that they've made basically get transferred to you, the admin of the application. And then you can use that license and invite somebody else who just by entering their email address. So once you enter their email, they'll get a link saying that Sandeep has invited you to join his team. They click on that link, and then they'll automatically be added to your team. So the good thing about team sharing is you as the administrator have edit access to everybody's tutorial on your team. So where you'll see that is under your tutorials tab, you'll see the shared edit. So basically, whatever tutorials have been made on your team, you'll automatically get edit access to this. So you can see Lauren has shared me a tutorial here, so I can edit it, me being the owner of the And then once somebody is removed, all their tutorials that they've made automatically get transferred to you, the owner.
Someone is asking if you can talk about the different plans that are available.
Sure. So I'm going to log out. So the way iorad plans work is by feature. So our free plan, you can make unlimited tutorials, but they're public, and then a lot of the features are kind of locked down. So if I go to the pricing page here, the first tier we have is private. So that's one creator. If you didn't need like branding and things like that, what you could do in this private one is you can, all the privacy that we talked about with embed only and marking a tutorial private or unlisted, you can do that here. And you can also mask data. The PDF is full. So in the free plan, the PDF is limited to a 2-page preview. But in the private, premium, and live, you get the PDF full. The premium plan is our most popular plan. It includes 2 creator licenses. And with that is you can brand, you can do everything that you saw with the tutorial player. You can add audio, you can see analytics, and that's included in the premium plan. And then the live functionality is its own separate one. And that includes 4 creator licenses. And then you can install the widget, or you can create live tutorials for your organization. So by default, the premium plan comes with 2 creator licenses. You can add additional creators at $19 a month. And then the live plan comes with 4 creators, and then you can add additional creators at $29 a month. So it's just by features. So it goes from free to private to premium to live. And that really is our plan. And then for our bigger companies, the ones that require certain export options where they want to self-host or they want to integrate single sign-on, everything is done by custom quote. So we would just sit down, figure out how many creators you need, and then what features you need, whether you need single sign-on or self-host option, and that's by it's a custom quote for your company. And schools, public K through 12 schools get 50% off these plans, and so you just need to email us at schools@iorad.com, and then just tell us what your school name is, and then how many creator licenses and which plan you need. And then we'll automatically send you a link with a 50% discount based on which plan you select and how many creators. And that's done by a custom quote as well, because schools generally will be paying by purchase order. So if you do need to be paid by purchase order, we can work with you through the W-9 process and all that fun stuff.
2 questions.
Yep.
Can multiple websites be added via the Connect widget?
Yeah, so that's another option. So if you need multiple sites, you can email us, and then we can configure a plan. That's just basically a special plan. And then it's also a custom quote. So if you need, depending on how many domains you need the widget for, we can definitely work with you on that.
And then if they had a plan before creators were part of the live plan, can we still get creators added to the account? Yes.
Yeah, you can add creators at any time. So if you're on a custom plan, you'll have to contact us, and then we can add those additional ones. If you're on one of these standard plans, you can do it right through your account interface. So you'll see here under accounts, Once you're there, you can add or remove creators. So if I go to account, you'll see a number of creators. So you can add more or less. Anything else?
Not right now. No.
All right, cool. So we hit the, what's that?
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for attending. It's 4 p.m. We ended at exactly in an hour. Again, we do appreciate your time. If you do share on social media once a month, we hope you'll think of us next time and share and let us know. We are a growing company, so it does help us. So yeah, thank you so much. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to email us. My email is sandeep@iorad.com, and Lauren's is lauren@iorad.com. So if you do have any questions, feel free. And if you want us to walk you through one-on-one, like a workshop style, you can schedule a workshop at iorad.com/demo. And then just pick a convenient time, and then we can get on a call and then kind of walk through, learn more about your business, and kind of figure out an iorad plan that works for you, and that'll solve some problems for you. So thanks again, everybody, and have a good rest of the day. All right, Lauren, I'm going to end this. Does anybody have any other questions?
Nope.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks.